what are you doing to actively dismantle oppressive structures for other people that eventually, particularly if you are oppressed, particularly white women, that are going to come for you?
Welcome to Carrie On, the show where we explore reinvention, self-discovery, and empowerment before, during, and after midlife. I'm your host, Carrie Murray. It's time to keep our head above the chaos and carry on. Welcome to Carrie On. I'm your host, Carrie Murray, and today I'm leaning into a conversation that a lot of people avoid, especially people who look like me. We're talking about white supremacy, not as something distant, but as something embedded in the systems we move through every day, and more specifically, the role white women play in upholding or disrupting it. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Akilah Cadet, founder and CEO of Change Cadet, and a consulting firm helping organizations embed belonging into their culture, strategy, and storytelling, even as that work is being challenged. She's a Forbes Next 1000 entrepreneur and one of San Francisco Business Times' most influential women. She's also the author of the book, White Supremacy is All Around, Notes from a Black Disabled Woman in a White World. She's bold, brilliant, and not here to make anyone comfortable. Let's get into it.
How are you?
Yeah, I am okay. I'm okay, sometimes miserable depending on the moment of the day, but very happy to be in conversation with you.
It's been a long time coming, and it's like I've been following you a while, and I told you I totally fangirl the first time I got to talk to you. And I met you through Crystal Whitaker, who I adore, who has also been on the show, and then was obsessed with your book. So now I've gotten everyone else to read it. So, hey, white women, we're having a conversation about white supremacy. So if you got to clutch your pearls or tighten your cheeks, hold on. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, I do. I have several pearl necklaces, so it's very appropriate. I sometimes clutch my own pearls. So.
And who knew? You wrote it in 2023?
Yeah, I turned it in October 31st, 2023, and it came out February 4th, 2024.
Gotcha. Oh, February 4th. And even then...
February 6th. Sorry.
Oh, February 6th.
February 6th.
Oh, yeah. Even then, we thought, you know what? It can't get worse. Could it? And holy fuck, has it ever.
Well, I thought it would get worse.
Yes. Yeah. Right. You're absolutely right. But recently, I definitely want to talk about the privilege of white women and their, obvious contribution to white supremacy when they think they're not, allyship, partnership, all the things. But recently, as in yesterday, today's April 30th, we're 2026 recording this, and this will come out in July, which will be, and the midterms are coming up. And recently, if you've been under a rock, the Supreme Court very much has overturned the Voter Rights Act from 1965, I want to say, 69, and 65, which made discrimination illegal. It eliminated Jim Crow, and it made it so that future legislations and laws we weren't allowed to have laws of discrimination. Even Clarence Thomas voted for this, just so everyone knows. As we know, that Supreme Court ruling just came out. What are your thoughts? Were you surprised? We were like, I know this was part of Project 2025. If you guys don't know what that is, who's listening to this, go Google it. We're not here to educate you. Anyways, what are your thoughts?
Well said. So my thoughts happened when I knew that this was going to the Supreme Court. Right. So I live with the intersectionality of being a Black disabled woman. And so for your listeners and viewers, I'm going to do something called an image description because I am disabled. I am in my office in Oakland, California, with a white bookshelf behind me with hodgepodge of things. I'm wearing a T-shirt that says, "They can't steal your joy." My hair is blown out and looks glamorous. I have hazel eyes. I have brown sugar skin, and then there's also portraits of my angel dog behind me. Now, I bring that up because I have people in my family that couldn't vote until the Voting Rights Act of 1965, right? So I am a proud Black woman, a proud Black disabled woman, and the Voting Rights Act enabled people to vote who were not white. I think a lot of people really need to understand that. Prior to then, could Black and brown people vote? Technically, yes, but that meant well, technically, no, they couldn't vote, but they were using it as a form of resistance to go to the polls and vote, being an American citizen, right? Unfortunately, they would either get murdered or maimed. And that was also for white folks who were advocating for non-white folks to vote at the polls. So when you think about the Voting Rights Act, it's not just Black people voting. It's basically anyone who wasn't a Black man or a white guy. Those are the two individuals who could vote first. White men first, Black men second. And then after that, that's how we got to the other oppressed groups. And so knowing with this racist ass, white supremacist fueled Supreme Court and full of justices, we know the ones who are not, because they're always outvoted. And I always think about Justice Ketanji Jackson all the time because she has to carry a lot. But what I knew is that from what we've seen with the end of affirmative action, what we've seen with the end of DEI, that the most important thing, and like you said, with Project 2025, is to take away voting rights for oppressed people, for Black and brown people. Now, what people may not understand about what happened recently with the Supreme Court, this is all based in Louisiana. Louisiana redistrict. So they had 2 Black majority districts, just 2. There was only one before, there was 2. Out of the vast amount of districts that they have for the state of Louisiana, the Supreme Court said, no, that's not cool. You can't do that. But it's fine for all the other districts to be majority white. The whole reason why there was one Black district was to help with the fact that everything else was white. And so they're saying you can't have anything based off of race. And yet, if race, which is a social construct, by the way, doesn't exist, but white people, white ethnicities have the majority, that's fine. But if there is even a minority and nowhere near a majority, again, 2 districts, that's not okay. And so ever since 1965, there's been movements and legislation and legislators and senators who have been doing what they can to dismantle the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It's also important to note that the Civil Rights Act happened the year prior in 1964. So what that meant was Black people could not be people until 1964. And then a year later, that's where voting rights came in so that they can actually vote. Part of the activism to get to the Civil Rights Act was going to the polls to vote when they couldn't vote. So beyond frustrated is how I feel. And I have a post coming up about that where I don't think people understand how many Black people died so that we could vote. And I also don't think people understand that America was founded by white men for it to be about white men. And so when you hear MAGA, Make America Great Again, it's to get back to that. So I wish more people understood how much of an impact this is, including white women, because white women are going to be impacted soon because women will lose the right to vote. We are losing bodily autonomy, but it all goes hand in hand. So it goes back into the majority of what this country wants, was the heterosexual, cisgendered, non-disabled white man to have all the power.
Correct.
End of rant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's also true that they're starting to, they start with our health, right? We're going to make them sick. We're going to make all these women, not only white women, all women. Let's make them sick and let's limit their access to health care. And then while we're doing that, let's take their voting rights away so they can't vote to make themselves healthy. Roe v. Wade, affordable care, any of that. It's all systematic and it's all been going on right in front of us. And it seems so obvious to all of us. And now with gerrymandering and mandering and moving the lines of the vote and what's happening in Florida. I don't know if you saw what Anita Nixon did. Was it yesterday?
I did, yeah.
And not only did she have this beautiful megaphone to really shout out that everything that was happening in Florida is unconstitutional, she was articulate and very clear. This is unconstitutional. And you guys, that's what's happening. All of this is unconstitutional. And why it doesn't seem painfully obvious and we're being distracted by a goddamn fake shooter at a ball. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so what people have failed to realize is that within an hour, states were changing their redistricting because of what happened on the Supreme Court. So something they may have approved, they're voting against to not happen. Multiple states did this within the hour too, but they did it yesterday, right? So this is going back to having white majority. But the other thing that I think people don't understand is that America is supposed to be, United States of America is supposed to be a democracy. You can't have a democracy if the voices are all the same.
Right.
Today's episode includes a paid endorsement. As always, I only partner with brands I use, trust, and feel good about sharing with you. Enjoy.
Before we jump back in, quick story. For 10 years, my company was called BRA Network, Business Relationship Alliance. Support was literally my brand. So when I tell you I'm picky about bras, I mean it. And I'm obsessed with Handful. It lifts without wires, flatters without flattening, and feels good all day, not just for those 30-second Instagram posts. I wear it to yoga, I wear it to filming, I wear it when I need to feel pulled together but comfortable. It's the kind of support that doesn't squeeze you into somebody else's shape. Use code Carrie On at handful.com. Support and make it intentional. Now back to the show.
And that's what's happening, right? So the voices are all the same.
And it's all we hear.
It's
over
all we hear.
And over
yeah.
and over again.
Over and over again. And so I have a post that says, it's not just an attack on the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It's a Supreme Court full of white supremacists. It's ending DEI. It's ending affirmative action. It's sending a message that the United States, that democracy does not include the voice, representation, lived experience, power, and overall existence of non-white people, especially Black people. So I pose the question, what is democracy without the oppressed?
It's absolutely true. I don't feel like we can have a democratic society without oppression.
Yes. So democracy without the oppressed is white supremacy dipped in capitalism finished with privilege. Mm-hmm. Because only those in power can benefit.
Right.
So ever since Donald has been in office, there's a 2018 study that shows if you call someone by their first name in a leadership position, they're not qualified to do their job. That's why Kamala was Kamala and Trump was Trump during the election. So I call him Donald and James David and Pete and all those horrible people. But, you know, when you are in that position to get into just having power for those individuals, everyone else is left out. When Donald came into the office to start a dictatorship, a regime. I've been saying that for the longest time. And this is evident of that behavior. So if you take away democracy and you attack those who are oppressed, that's why we have ICE. That's why 140 billion, whatever this new vote that just happened overnight is going to ICE. All of these things are to get into maintaining power and control through white supremacy.
Right. And ICE is using racism as their determining factor of who they pick up. So,
and that has been approved by the Supreme Court.
Correct. So there's the contradiction, everybody. Yeah.
Right. ICE has been empowered by the Supreme Court to say if someone looks like an immigrant or they shouldn't belong here, aka not a white person,
mm-hmm. You can pick them up.
You can pick them up, but you also can murder them because
mm-hmm.
the person who murdered Renee Good is back working. That happened this week.
Yeah.
Right. So that permission is there. It's the same permission with when you have a white supremacist, pedophile, rapist, you know, list goes on and on, ableist president, then it allows that behavior to happen in the workplace, in your personal relationships, at home, friends, family, right? Because that person is in power and allows the behavior to happen.
Yeah, it perpetuates it. And as such, you know, I really want to encourage anybody who's watching this to like get on Google and really look for where you're voting, when is, you know,
or
when
not
the polls
Google,
open.
Because Google adds to what's happening in Israel. Google has paid for the White House ballroom. Google has aligned with
Very true.
Donald Trump. And that wasn't the case once. I worked with Google for the longest time, and I was able to do wonderful things to support women in leadership positions. But just like many other brands, Home Depot, Lowe's, Coors, Apple, Apple products, they are in cahoots to support the person in power because people like proximity to power. And they are furthering this harm. The things that you love, your tools that you love, your search engine that you love are adding to upholding these values of white supremacy and eliminating, actively funding and eliminating your existence if you are an oppressed person. An oppressed person is anyone who's not a, again, hetero, cisgendered, straight, non-disabled white guy, right? The white guy who is queer, he's or they them are also being attacked, right? And so these are things that if someone's sitting there like, well, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 has nothing to do with me, you are really disconnected from humanity and what needs to happen, particularly if you are, an oppressed group.
Yeah, it's affecting all of us. Yeah, and knowing that, and where do we get our news? Where's a safe place to get something that's bipartisan, that isn't filled with so much discrimination already? Like, where do we go?
Well, we have to do this thing called critical thinking, which a lot of people don't do anymore because of AI. I am a Dewey Decimal person.
Oh,
So
wow.
my education included the Dewey Decimal System. And if people don't know what the Dewey Decimal System is, then you don't know critical thinking, right? So
I remember the Dewey
cataloging. I know we do, right? But it's cataloging of books. And we had to catalog books to the library to learn and unlearn. But when you have everything readily available and no critical thinking skills, you don't want to do what everyone should do with consuming news and media, which is check multiple sources.
Yeah.
So
microfiche?
sure, you can have a reliable source that you trust, but check multiple sources. Even if you don't have capacity, you can look at headlines of things. There's a lot of bias in headlines, right? And do your search in whatever engine, hit minus AI, and take the time to not be fed things that can further perpetuate harm to oppressed groups. But people don't want to think anymore. They want things to be easy, which is why like the murder of George Floyd was a very revolutionary time, because people took the time because of the pandemic. And if they're privileged enough to be at home, to learn and unlearn. And now that time is gone and past, people kind of just are like, well, if I know King's protest, then maybe they'll get the message. If I made a strike, if I just do a general strike, maybe they'll get the message. No, you have to actively do critical thinking every day to be informed, to know how to show up in big and small capacities on a regular basis to dismantle these oppressive structures that are ingrained in the foundation of the United States of America, but also within this government.
Yeah, I'm curious what are your, what are your suggestions to the women watching this? And it's primarily, I have a white woman over the age of 45 audience, so that they want to show up, but they also have to be uncomfortable to do it. And I really struggle with conveying that to my audience, because they're just like, oh, that doesn't have to do with me, but it actually does. And I'm wondering, like, what are your thoughts on how to get these women motivated?
Yeah, so the first chapter of my book is white women are exhausting.
Yes.
And I say that with humor, and I say that with love, and I say that with facts, because we know white women are the reasons why, big primary reason why we have Donald Trump in office.
Correct.
Right, so we saw this when Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were running, right?
Yep. And we had to call her Hillary. Remember, she was Hillary.
She was Hillary.
Not
Clinton. But we had Clinton and Donald running against each other, and white women could see themselves in a white woman, but they still feel more power and proximity to a white man because grandpa, daddy, husband, partner, uncle, whatever it is, that they still chose Donald.
Yep.
And that was grab him by the pussy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you're like, that's fine. It's like not my pussy.
Yeah. It's not
Right?
my pussy. It's not my daughter's pussy. It's somebody else's pussy.
Someone else's. And, then he ran again, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And that was kids in cages now. We had kids in cages. So if we go by the mother stereotype of a woman, and we know statistically white women have kids. If they were a parent of a kid, because white women are the majority in the U.S. They're like, yeah, that's fine. I have kids, but they're not my kids in cages, so that's fine. I'm still the comfort of whiteness, of that guy in power. I'm still going to vote for him. And yes, Joe Biden won, but there's that comfort because, I mean, even though I'm a woman, is it Kamala? I don't know, but she is not white, so I don't understand that. Even though she's a woman and I'm a woman, I can't understand the intersectionality we have together to be a VP. I don't know if I still prefer men. I prefer men to, and then the third time we now have that same woman. It's the same thing, but on a larger scale. Instead of being a VP, for being a president for Kamala Harris. And whiteness has so much power. And so for white women who are listening, how does whiteness show up in your life? Why do you love it so much? Why do you forget a big part of how you're viewed in this world, which is as a woman or a person who identifies as a woman? Why are you forgetting that? Why does that not matter? Why are you comfortable with primarily men telling you what you can do with your organs? And there's not one law, no form of legislation around men's body parts. Yeah. We're not like, we got the prostate protocol, so proclamation, blah, blah, blah. We don't have any of those right. things. Why are you okay with that? But that's because white women know the benefit and the power of whiteness, which has more power than being a woman. A woman is an oppressed person. And so when white women have the opportunity to not feel oppressed, it's like, oh, whew, I'm white. So let me just be white. And so for the white women listening, when you're checking your whiteness, my book can help you with that. The first chapter literally is white women are exhausting. The second chapter is because these Karens just turned into terrorists. Now, if you were like, well, I'm not a Karen, you have been at a moment in time. And you should be aware of that and check it. And if you don't like the title of that chapter, then you don't like Beyonce. And I know all these white women like Beyonce. And sometimes you forget that she's Black, which is a whole other thing. But it's a lyric from her song Energy of the title of the second book. But really reading those stories and asking yourself every day, how are you showing up? Are you showing up to empower your whiteness? Or are you mindful of the oppression that you have as a woman? And that's how you can be, an activist, an accomplice to yourself, an advocate to yourself first, and how that can extend to other people. And then when you understand that with the whiteness you have and the power that you have with whiteness, what are you doing to use that power and privilege to help other people that don't have the same power and privilege? Right?
Yep. It's so true. And it's one thing I really liked in your book is when you talked about that not the women in the workplace, right? When we're in the workplace and we want to be close proximity to the white man that's in charge. Because we're like, oh, well, they're going to see me because I'm like them. And it's still, and now with no more DEI and affirmative action and all of that gone in the workplace, I feel like now it's like now that we have Donald in office again, it's okay for them to grab the pussy again. Like we've given them permission. Like we're back to that.
Well, here's the thing. They've always had permission because the Epstein files are active and no one has been arrested. Yes, Jeffrey Epstein was in jail, but we know what happened there. Yeah. And the only person who's serving any sentence is a woman. There's active pedophiles right now. The bills alone, there's so much evidence on the bills, Gates or Clinton.
Yep.
There's so much evidence on, Donald, and nothing is happening because that's the power. When you're at the top of the white supremacy food chain, you don't have accountability. And if you do, it's little. Right. So even the men who have been part of the Epstein files, they have either still in their jobs, they've stepped down with a lot of money.
Yep.
Or they're just saying, I didn't do anything. I was just business. There's really very little accountability. Very little of those men have actually been fired. And there's data that shows that's out there.
Yeah. And the same is true with these police officers who have killed so many Black people, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin. Like they just go ahead, you can leave.
They can, and so this is where I like to remind people that words are powerful because they murdered them. They didn't kill them; they murdered them. Yeah, because they feel above, they feel superior, right? For the listeners, Rodney King, when that happened in the 90s, was a big deal. And Rodney King survived until he passed away. A lot of trauma happened as a result of that. But the thing that I like to point out there is that the officers felt superior to someone and beat someone, right? It didn't result in a murder, but there was intent that was there. The systems and structures allow that to continually perpetuate. I bring that up because it's one of the first times that you had like film,
Right.
you
We
know,
had seen
a
it.
video camera to see it. But I also bring that up because we have postcards that were sent from lynching to families. There's families right now who have body parts of Black people as a memento from these things. So it's always been there and evident. When people are in positions of power and privilege, like law enforcement, like white men in power, they're able to get away with murdering and harming. There is intent there because they feel superior to the person that they are harming. And that's why it continues. That's why we have something called police brutality,
Right.
because it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. We have police unions that protect them. We have cities that just pay out millions and millions of dollars that could go to education, housing, public transportation, parks, and other things. But they rather do that than say, actually, no, we're going to prosecute all these people who are murdering and maiming anyone. I don't care how that person identifies. White people have also been murdered and abused by law enforcement as well. It's important to note. But they are purposely going in to murder people to send the message that our lives don't matter. That's why we have Black Lives Matter, right?
Right. Right. And when
Just fun stuff.
Yeah, when you hear, when the Black Lives Matter movement started, and we would hear the reverse of that all lives matter. I didn't quite get how all lives can matter if Black ones don't.
So think about it this way. Let's say there's a block of houses, beautiful houses. One house is on fire. And the fire department comes out, puts the fire out, and someone comes out from a house that's not on fire and says, no, all houses matter. I need that high-powered fire hose on my house. You'd be like, no, you don't. Because, in fact, if that fire isn't put out, your house could be put out. Like, your house could also, be on fire, would need to be put out as well. You don't need the resources of the fire department there. You don't need that, right? So in that case, you can't say all houses matter when one is on fire.
Right.
No, you got to put the fire out. Right. And so that's essentially what all lives matter means. Like, oh, no, all lives matter. Yes, that is actually a true statement. But unfortunately, with the systems and structures, it's saying white lives have more value because police brutality isn't tied. It happens, again, like I just said, to white people, but the statistics aren't tied to white people. The millions and millions of dollars that are going to family lawsuits aren't going to white people. They're going to Black and brown people.
Right.
And disabled individuals of any background too, right? That's what's happening. That's the larger issue. So that's also where like it's important to talk about the difference between allyship and being an accomplice. So if you think about that same analogy with the houses like being on fire and power and privilege and someone being an accomplice, they could have that same energy of like, what is happening? What's going on? To, oh, my house is still intact. So do you want to come inside?
Right.
Here's a blanket for you. Here's my phone. Can I take you somewhere? Because they have the privilege and the infrastructure that is still there to be an accomplice, support someone else. See, an ally is someone who's like, I champion and support Black Lives Matter or, Pride Month, even though I don't identify those as those things. Like that is allyship. But allyship allows for comfort. So, but wait, why do they have the fire hose? I want the fire hose.
Right.
Like, I have a Black Lives Matter sign on my house, but like, why is there, I want the fire hose in my, that's allyship it gets to the point of comfort and questioning. An accomplice is like, I am doing whatever it can to use my power and privilege to help someone else out, which is why I cannot stand allies. Use any other A word, advocate, activist,
Right,
accomplice, but don't put yourself in a position where you have an excuse, which is why the No Kings, I'm going to upset some people, but I don't care. No Kings is cute.
Isn't it?
It's so cute. But No Kings means this is how I'm going to show up. And then I'm just going to live my life. Like you didn't just go through a pandemic and the murder of George Floyd.
Right. Well, think how many people went to brunch after the No Kings March.
So many people. It's a good business day. You know, very Instagrammable. You know, to put out there. But it's not to say that you can't No Kings, but really, what are you doing every other day?
Right.
So I always ask the question, well, what did you do since the last No Kings? Have you done anything differently, or you just wait? You just wait. Like, we had a big general strike January 30th.
Yep.
I think, right? That was the last one?
That was the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. So what have you done differently then? We have a strike happening tomorrow, May 1st. So are you still supporting immigrant-owned, BIPOC-owned businesses, or did you go back to Starbucks the next day?
I was going to say Chick-fil-A.
Right. What do you, and it's like, again, you know, you got to pick and choose where you want to show up, and you can tap into joy. If Chick-fil-A brings you joy, fine, but don't go all the time. You know, like, what are you doing to actively dismantle oppressive structures for other people that eventually, particularly if you are oppressed, particularly white women, that are going to come for you? So if you're not, so I'm a public health practitioner. So we call something, we want to focus on preventative things. So we look at a stream and we think about what's happening upstream. So if there's a I don't know, some factory that's polluting upstream, we want to figure out what we can do to stop that pollution from going further down to harm more fish or people or whatever it is, communities, neighborhoods, ecosystems, and environment. We want to stop that. But there's so many white women who are just like, yeah, but that's so far over there. So that has nothing to do with me. And then we get into what we call tertiary things, where now we're triaging. We're trying to solve the things. It's like, oh, the pollution we didn't know the pollution's going to come down here. Well, we did, because that's why we were trying to put legislation in place so they can no longer dump in the stream. That would make sure that your rich ass plush neighborhood over there would be fine. But now it's in your neighborhood, and now we got to do something about it because it has to directly impact you. But if we're not doing things for humanity, for all people, then we're just perpetuating, again, me, very proud, broken record. And for the younger folks, a record is a disc, it played music, right? But I will see it over and over again. We're just upholding values of white supremacy.
Yeah, exactly. Look upstream. Stop it. You know, it's preventative, right? Stopping it before it begins and recognizing it and calling it out, and not passively going, well, that didn't happen. I'm going to just close my door. That's not happening to me. I don't have to worry about it. There was we can talk about World War II and the evacuation of all the Jews, and that's not my problem. I'm not Jewish.
Yeah, that is a fun one. But we really want to call people in. We don't want to call them out. We want to call them in, right? To an opportunity for learning and unlearning, accountability, apology, change, and moving forward differently. When we call someone out, that's just cancel culture. You suck. Right. How is that helpful? But if you say, here's why you suck, then, you can have an opportunity for the upstream things and preventing downstream things, right, to happen.
I love that. And it's uncomfortable conversations that need to happen. So get comfortable. You say this a lot in your book. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, the goal is to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with that. And that's part of the reason why I started this show, to have my audience pause and have uncomfortable moments with themselves to reflect, oh, why do I feel uncomfortable? Figure out where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it in my book, but again, that's a place of privilege where I don't want to be uncomfortable.
Right.
So I lived in a predominantly white neighborhood. In my preschool, there were 3, maybe 4 black kids. One was my twin. That continued K through 8. So I had to learn at a very young age to be comfortable being uncomfortable because I was the minority in the group. I was always othered. I was always different. And so I have expertise at learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That perpetuated in undergrad, perpetuated in working in adult life, it perpetuated in my graduate degrees. Like, it's all the same. It perpetuates when I just go outside. It's the same thing. And so I have more expertise and practice in calling people in so I can be seen, picking and choosing when I want to be an activist. And so white people don't have that experience because they're the majority. And so it takes more work and effort to build that muscle. And sometimes white people, white women in particular, want to compare themselves to Black people or Black women who are just like, you can just do this with ease. But they're forgetting that we had to grow up not being part of the dominant culture. So if they realize the energy that white people have, white women have around feeling superior, we don't have that.
Right.
Y'all do. And so the funny thing is, like, with all the degrees and expertise and the list and all the things that I'm on, I'm still not a white person. Even with my light skin privilege, I'm still not a white person. I am part white, but because of how America works, it doesn't work in the opposite. If you have any Black in you, you are just Black. I don't get to also benefit from the whiteness that I have outside of my light skin privilege, right? And so that white person, because they have more power and privilege, can say and do the same exact thing as me and have more of an impact because it's going to be better received by the majority of the folks around them. So anytime I enter a room, I have to scan the room. Am I safe here? Can I say things? Am I going to be judged? Are people going to think I'm an assistant? You know, are people going to question why I'm in the room? And then my favorite part is then I go up on stage and they're like, oh, she's the keynote. Yeah. And then all of a sudden people want to talk to me because now privilege has been established of why I need to be in the room. And then they want to have proximity to me. It's the LMAOs. It's hilarious. It really, really is. But again, white people don't have to do that. They don't have to walk in the room to prove who they are,
right?
And be perceived as. Women can always be perceived as less than, as the assistant or whatever around a boardroom or conference room. That is so fun. But they don't have to do that. So, you know, I think that's why, one of the reasons why I wrote this book, but so many reasons why I tell stories. So through storytelling, white people, but white women in particular, could learn how to show up in ways that selfishly support themselves, but everyone else gets a benefit too, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right. I think it's really important that everyone reads this book. Do you have another book in you? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm working on another book right now. So it's
Anything
the publishing industry is very, I can, but publishing industry is just a very, very white industry. So it's a very traumatic place for me to be in, but it's something that I navigate where I'm comfortable being uncomfortable so I can keep getting my stories out there. This book is actually talking about how narcissism is supremacism. And connecting the dots there, getting into like the systems and structures. I'm writing it along with a therapist. So it's a really interesting perspective. There's so much, particularly social media culture about narcissism, but it's devoid of how systems and structures, particularly white supremacy, shows up in that. And so it is something that it has been really fun to kind of work on and to see. There's even callbacks like to my book about how my father does a lot to support white supremacy, and he's an immigrant and he is not a white person, but he does a lot of things rooted in supremacism. A lot of men do a lot of things rooted in supremacism, right, and being superior to, which is why I like to always say that men are trash. And put that out there. And then for those who are like, no, not my husband, ask him how he feels about the Rape Academy and 62 million views. See what his thoughts are around that. And I hope you get the response that you want. But a lot of men like to protect men. Yes. A lot of men have conversations, you know, that are out there. But that, again, is rooted in supremacism. Just like the Epstein files, rooted in supremacism, pedophilia, rooted in supremacism. It's the very reason why patriarchy allows things to happen where if I'm a cougar, if I date someone, you know, 15, 20 plus years younger than me, and it could ruin a career. Whereas that's the complete opposite for a man. It's like, good job for you, buddy.
Yeah, you got it.
High five. You got it. That's what you deserve because you feel young.
Yeah.
You know, all those standards that are there. Well, men get promoted for no absolute reason at all. They're not qualified, except for having a questionable penis. Yeah. Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, but here I am. I have BDE, and I could be a threat. Mm-hmm. So, and that for people who don't know, big dick energy.
Yeah, big dick energy, everybody. Yeah. Sorry, Mom. That's what it is. Well, we have to close up. I mean, I could keep talking to you forever, but this is, but I do want to mention one thing that in your book I absolutely loved is the mention of your grandmother. And I had a very special relationship with my mom, my grandmother, my granny. And you talked about, I think it was your sister or cousin who had a dream that tell you to cross the street.
Yeah.
Do you still have moments where you pause in everyday life or when conflict comes up where you hear her saying, Akilah, cross the street?
My grandma talks to me all the time. And we have tea time. So my grandmother loved Earl Grey tea. I'm an Earl Grey tea drinker. And so when I have my tea every morning, we just kind of have a little chat. Yeah, and do that way. I, for the cross the street story and that was a one-time thing for me to cross the street. That was the message for me to keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. And so that is what I do. Now, like the conversations, I'm like, just with my grandmother, like, this is going to make sense, right? This is going to make sense at some point because I am tired. I am tired of this. Like, I love my superpower. Thank you so much for that. But like, this is going to make sense, you know? Yeah. So, but it's a great, I'm going to give it away. But it's a great story.
I actually miss having a grandparent, to be honest. Like, I feel like grandparents are such a gift, and there are times when I talk to my granny too all the time. She also drinks tea, but I just wish we could have a grandparent in our 40s too.
Yeah, and I mean, there's people who do. I don't have grandparents anymore. All my grandparents are gone, and that is, it's definitely. I always thought my grandmother died at a younger age that she would be around for these things, but I just have to celebrate with her in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just particularly now, grandparents are a wonderful place of like giving none of the fucks and softness.
Yeah.
Which I think it's just really, really important. So sometimes I really wish I could have someone to, tell me the stories and things to move along, but it makes me value the time I did have with my grandparents. Yeah.
Myself included. Grannies, this is for you. Thank you so much for being here. Tell the people where we can see you, follow you, all the places, all the spaces.
Yeah. So my book, White Supremacy is All Around. It's from Black disabled women in a white world, is available wherever books are sold. If you want a signed copy, you can come to my website, changecadet, CADET.com. There's lots of fun resources and things there as well. You can follow me on any social media platform. I'm most active on Instagram. At Change Cadet, CADET. And then I'm the host of Humane Rights Podcast. You can listen to that on any platform. It's audio and visual. And it's all about getting back to humanity. And if you like the shirt I have on or any of the merch or my limited vintage line, it's available on my website that I already told you about. So
yeah, and
that is me.
We'll put it all in the show notes and all the places and all the spaces. You also have a really good Substack.
I do have a good Substack. Yeah. Thank you. The Change Cadet Action Network.
Yeah, I really, really love your Substack, so that's good too. Thank you so much for being here and giving us just a moment of your time in a very busy, messy world and showing up as your true, authentic self.
Always happy to be back, and to you and your listeners, keep being amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please always, do the things like comment, subscribe, and keep your head above the chaos and carry on.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Carrie On. Be sure to find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And as always, like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And don't forget to keep your head above the chaos and carry on.